one slide is very important to me. I want to thank everybody who's concerned about me getting frozen cold outside walking around like this, but I'm surrounded by 149 people in liquid nitrogen all the time at work, so I'm kind of used to it. I want to sympathize with them, get a sense of what that feels like. I'm really encouraged by all the activity in all these different groups. It's really, I think there's a few of you. I was in Finland not so long ago. I was in Dresden recently. So I've met a number of you in your natural habitats. But there's some new people here I haven't met, and more efforts than I really was aware of. And I want to talk a bit about that as to what Alcor can do to help with that. I think collaboration is really important here, especially when you don't have critical mass in your countries. Tim's group, Tim is not the only person there, but he's really the leading light of Cryonics UK. I think he could play, I'm going to volunteer you now, Tim. I think he could play a critical role, and already is doing a lot of training for other groups. And I think to combine your efforts and resources like that could be very helpful. And hopefully Tim will be doing these training sessions, which he's been doing how many years now on a quarterly basis? 10. 10 years. That takes some grit to keep that up. It's one of the things I want to say that I sent Jose an email recently saying Cryonics is hard, Cryonics is hard, Cryonics is hard. He does one thing. So working together makes it a little bit easier. Otherwise you can get burned out. So forgetting anybody who's from the UK, Germany, Finland, Netherlands, Spain, Poland, Sweden, and Belgium. That's pretty good, and I think there were some other people who didn't come today. A little bit of history, because it seems that some people may be not completely aware of my history with Cryonics. I'm originally from England, and along with Garrett, who's also here, started the first Cryonics organization in England, maybe the first real one in Europe, back in 1986. That happened because I had been reading Cryonics magazines in something like 83 or 84, and going down to Imperial College London once a month to meet with some friends who were, including Garrett, who were talking about future topics, space migration, intelligence increase, life extension. And at that time, I'd recently been reading Cryonics magazine. It was the big thing. And I guess they wanted to check out how hardcore I was. This is just a new guy. So what he thinks of this. They brought up the idea of Cryonics and said, what do you think of this? And I heard a little bit about it, and I looked at the magazine and said, well, yeah, obviously. Makes sense. What about chopping people's heads off and freezing them? Oh, yeah, of course. Come on, then. So I think I passed the hardcore test right here. I did. Yeah. So then, I guess it was early in 86 or late in 85. Alcor was a lot smaller back then, and they were trying to raise some money for Silpool, which you don't use anymore, but it's a fluid for cooling down the initial stages. I actually held someone, Dora Kent's head actually, and put it in a vat of Silpool once back in the late 80s. I sent a little bit of money in, trivial amount from my tiny student income. I got a letter back from Mike Darwin, the president at the time, saying, look, if you're willing to send money 6,000 miles away, how about actually joining up, being the first person to sign up? So I was, again, all right, I'm going to do it. So did Garrett and a few other friends there. And then he said, further on, if you're willing to do that, how about actually starting something in England? So I foolishly said, yes, damn it, I'm going to do it. So we did. And we started what was originally called Mizar Limited, so it was a private company. Mizar being the companion star to Alcor, if you look in the Big Dipper. Mizar is kind of in the handle, which you can see. Alcor, you have to look really carefully. It's not really a double star, it's a double star system. If you've got excellent vision, you can see Alcor. So that's why James chose that name originally, very symbolic. Later on it became Alcor UK, and then after various adventures, probably Garrett can tell you better than I can, it unfortunately kind of fell apart and was superseded by Cryonics UK, essentially, which is not just an Alcor organisation, it helps every organisation. So that was my experience. I learned a lot from. We got a huge amount of media, didn't we, Garrett, back in '86. It was amazing. We did the BBC World Service where they played Frankenstein sounds to make fun of us. A lot of we got the New York Times. We got the London Times, the Sunday Times. We had the science correspondent, Neville Hutchinson. He did quite a nice piece. He sat next to us with Greg Fay. It was Garrett's apartment. We had Greg Fay on the sofa, anonymous because he didn't want to be associated with Cryonics. And there I was explaining Greg's work on vitrification to this reporter as Greg sat there, not saying a word. It was kind of funny. Also got on the Terry Wogan show, which was a big talk show at the time. It was pretty terrifying. I don't know if he's old enough here, or if he's known in Europe, but who knows? James, just played under his name, Connections. James Burke. James Burke, thank you, yeah. So, who knows James Burke, about the known person being a prop? So he was actually on right before me, and he stayed on, on the talk shows next to you. And I was thinking, oh, what's he going to say? Is he going to poo-poo this idea? Actually, he said two things, both of which were supported, so that was pretty good. But back then, things were pretty different. Cryonics was really tough to explain. People had no concept of what it was. They weren't really familiar with the science, and there wasn't as much of the science back then. So the typical response was either to ridicule it or to say it was a get-rich-quick scheme, which I've always found very amusing because people have no clue if you think you can get rich quick from cryonics. Okay, let's take the most complex possible thing you can think of, which pushes all people's hot buttons and emotional buttons and goes against everything most people think is right, and try and sell that quickly and make money. It'd be pretty stupid to do that as a get-rich-quick scheme. But when I left that first debate with the professor of surgery from London, that was his parting shot. We left the studio. Well, I'm sure you'll get very rich, he said, snottily, and walked off. Anyway, finally I'm getting paid the last few years to do this up to 34 years not being paid. I'm still working on the rich part. Since that time, things have changed drastically, at least in the US. And actually, I'd like to talk to you individually about your experiences. I forget who it was, but one of you, was it Poland, I'm sure, mentioned some, it was Finland, mentioned that the media and how kind of weren't very keen on doing more of that because there were no shows or didn't really treat you very well. I don't find that anymore. I have to fight them off, actually, because we get so many calls, media requests, and pretty good ones. I have to turn them down a lot of the time. When I do them, I try to find ones which are likely to be responsive, give us a good result, have an audience that might actually be interested and educated enough to understand what we're talking about. So we do things like National Geographic and Discovery Show and news channels, some online publications that are read by people in Silicon Valley and interested in technology, like The Verge and so on. And almost universally, with very few exceptions, they treat this idea with respect, which is so different than the way it used to be. They don't ridicule it. They may have some critical questions. They may quote some people who say it's not going to work. But generally, they just let us speak. In fact, I did one where that's all I did. I spoke, he basically transcribed it, and that was the article. A bit of a lazy journalist, but that was kind of nice because I got to say what I wanted. And most of them, quite a few of them are actually quite positive. And then, of course, we were just hearing about the C. elegans research that Alcor funded and participated in. That was published in Ulrich's journal, Rejuvenation Research. We paid to have that open access, and I believe it broke the record for number of downloads very quickly. And also got attention in Technology Review, so that actually had quite a good impact. And it's not just in the media that things have changed. It's maybe a little bit different here, but take heart if you are seeing this kind of opposition. Back in the old days, if Alcor went to a hospital, I think Tim said something like this too. He went to the hospital and said, "We want to cryopreserve this person." They go, "What? Not in my hospital, you don't. Get out of here." And you have to wait, linger in the parking lot like some kind of weirdo until the person came out and you get your hands on them. Today, it's not like that. Today, for instance, in Scottsdale, we have a hospital, a Brazo, formerly Paradise Valley, and a hospice that works inside the hospital. And we've done, I think, about six or seven cases with them now. The CEO came out to visit and said, "How can we help?" The head of nursing came out and talked to us. And we have a very good relationship with them. We've also done that in other hospitals and other hospices. So the days of staying hands off is being replaced by doctors and nurses coming out and saying, "Oh, I saw you on the Discovery Channel. Can we watch? Can we help somehow?" And it's just very different. Not everybody is that good, but it's surprising how often we do get cooperation. It's important when you're dealing with mortuaries too, because you can't find a mortuary in the local area to help you with some of the logistics. It could be very difficult to move the patient out from a non-local area. So if they actually have heard of you, they've seen some of the media, they understand a bit of the idea, and they're receptive, that makes a huge difference to your chances of getting people out quickly and in good condition. And it's not just the media either. It's not just the media, it's not just hospitals. Scientifically being much better received. It used to be Cryonics was over here, conventional medicine was over here, and there's an enormous gulf. But now we've got in vitro fertilization, we've got millions of people walking around who are cryopreserved as embryos. I always like to say this to people. They say, "Oh, we already have people who are cryopreserved, they were just embryos at the time." We have people like Dr. Peter Ree from the University of Arizona, Tucson, working with people in Pittsburgh to cool patients down much colder than ever been done before. I think before cold surgery meant reducing temperature about 10 degrees. Now he's actually going all the way down to 10 degrees C, and that gives you about 4 times as much time to operate. So they can take gunshot wound victims who bleed out, and by cooling them, they can slow that down and save go to like 5%, I think it's 92% survival, something like that. At the same time, people kind of get understanding the fact we're not only cryopreserving embryos. We're also cryopreserving corneas and heart valves and all kinds of bodily tissues, dozens of kinds of bodily tissue types. So it's crazy. We freeze things and then they form, and we freeze eyeballs and so on. Maybe it's not so crazy, but okay, how do you get to a whole organ? Well, it's been done, not maybe repeatedly, but it's been done. So all these building blocks are coming along, plus NASA and other space agencies are very interested in hibernation and torpor. There's a paper came out, I think, in February of this year, which you might want to look up. It's very interesting. And of course, that's not cryonics, but it still helps to bridge the gap. It's slowing metabolism down. It's the same basic principle. In fact, when Peter Reed came to talk about, we invited him to come visit Alcor to discuss his work in Pittsburgh. And he also talked to the press, and they said, what do you think of cryonics? Of course, we were expecting him to say, what I do has nothing to do with what those crazy people do. Instead he said, yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. It's kind of more radical than what I'm doing, but it's the same basic principle. That's what he said. And he came to us, and he was very warm. So that's really a big change. And you may not be quite at that point here, but you can get there. So I want that to be an encouraging message. Don't give up. Never apologize. Never apologize. Never back down. If you're going to have a debate, which they'll set you up with sometimes, just stand your ground. As one example of that, I don't know if anybody here has seen that. Back in 2002, this is when we cryopreserved Ted Williams, and there was a big controversy about it. I was living in Southern California at the time, and I got a call from Alcor and saying, I don't know which channel it's on, but Crossfire. Anybody know Crossfire, the debate show? Still had one of the same hosts, Basel back then. Anyway, they set me up to debate this bioethicist who knew absolutely nothing about cryonics. They just wanted to have a hit job done. And his strategy was just to deride it. He just said, well, it's like trying to jump from here to the moon. And rather than getting apologetic, I said, no, it's not. Don't be stupid. That violates laws of physics and physiology. What I'm proposing doesn't. I would give arguments, and he'll come back with no arguments, just trying to ridicule me. And just by holding that line, and by pointing out what he was doing, and I'm not just saying this from my point of view, people from the studio said, you crushed that guy. Because he didn't know anything, he was just trying to make fun of you to show that there was substance here. So never apologize. Never say, yeah, it probably won't work. Don't do that, please. I'm tired of hearing it probably won't work. Yes, it probably will. It will. If you do it reasonably well, it probably will. Because we have electron micrograph studies of vitrified animal tissue, brain tissue, that looks damn good. And everything we know about memory says you're still there. So don't say it has maybe a 1-2% chance of working. Don't do that, please. Don't undersell it. We've been so hesitant to not oversell it that I think we've become way too apologetic. So that's one of my messages, just be bold and brave. Okay, so a little bit about my past at 86. I signed up with Alcor in 86, actually just over 20 years ago, back in September, along with Garrett. I kind of, the one higher number, we were at the same time. I just signed the people seconds before you or something, I don't know.
Oh,
or maybe you left
it
it
down on the desk, and you put yours on top.
I see.
And so yours was
Should have taken your eyes off.
I handed mine in.
Just to clarify that. All right. So a year later, I left to go to the States to work on my PhD there in Southern California, so I kind of left all that behind. But I was quite involved with Alcor for several years there, helped out with a number of cases, including the Laura Kent case, which was a very interesting one. We won't go into detail on that one, but we had major clashes with the law, and could have been destroyed quite easily by the coroner and the medical examiner and the various bureaucrats at the Biostatistics Department. They all descended on us at once, and unfortunately it wasn't for Saul Kent and funding the legal battles, we probably would have just disappeared at that point. So, that's probably going to happen at some point in some of these countries. That's why collaboration is useful, having resources is useful, because you will need them. You need them to defend yourself. You can think, oh, we'll just be nice and persuasive, but when a government bureaucrat comes down on you and says that's illegal, because there's no box to check, we've discussed this a little bit, right? We had the same situation, which shouldn't have happened. Because in America, it's supposed to be legal unless there's specifically a law against it. But the bureaucrats don't necessarily understand that. They say, well, look, we have a box you have to check. Are you going to be incinerated? Are you going to be buried? If there's no box, then you can't do this. And we said, excuse me? And we got a really good constitutional attorney, and after spending some money, thanks to Saul again, we won, and we're allowed to do that now. It's different in other countries because you don't necessarily have that presumption of legality, so it can be a little difficult. And that'd be another reason for collaboration, because maybe a neighboring country or 1 or 2 countries over might have easier regulations. So if you can work with that group to get them across the border and then take advantage of more easy regulations for, for shipping, that would be a very good thing to do. Ben was talking a bit about China. We've had some experience in China and in Thailand. About a year or so ago, we did our first cases in both countries, not too far apart. Very long way away, very challenging, but we were able to actually cryoprotect the patient in both cases. Two very different environments, so a different data point from Europe here. In China, it was difficult. The law was very unclear. It was unclear about pronouncement. It was unclear about transport. It took us quite a while to get the patient. Fortunately, he was on dry ice, so we had some time. But it took a couple of weeks to figure out how to get the person out. Thailand was quite different. It was very interesting there. In Thailand, when you're close to death in the eyes of the doctors, let's say you're in hospital, they think you have a few days left, they'll discharge you and send you home to be with your family. It's kind of civilized. And on doing so, that really is the declaration of legal death. And they give you this big bottle of morphine. They say, take the big bottle of morphine with you, don't sell it on the street, take it home, and when you're ready, take your comfort dose. That's pretty civilized. That's basically what we're fighting for in America and other countries, the right to decide when you go and not have to suffer necessarily. It's also fantastic because we can time the exit. We can have a team standing by, and when everybody's ready and in place and the family's set, take the morphine, take the comfort dose, and we can begin. And the police just come by and say, oh, okay, sign off, and that's it. So, very different environment. Again, we're ready to, this is actually a 2-year-old girl, not quite 3 years old, a little girl with a brain cancer, and we were able to actually cryoprotect her surprisingly well, and get her back to the States on dry ice. So, things are definitely changing. People are starting to understand cryonics within the concept of organ donation, organ preservation, emergency medicine, and that's how I present cryonics always. One of the first things I say when I'm explaining to someone who doesn't know much about it is that cryonics is an extension of emergency medicine. And I want to tell a few of you off, because I've heard several of you talk about bodies. We're not dealing with bodies, we're dealing with people, we're dealing with patients. Don't call them bodies, please. Because if you do, it makes you part of the funeral industry. It makes you get regulated to the cemetery. We're trying to be a scientific experimentation here. So don't try to be a cemetery, try to be a donation for a scientific purpose. In which case, don't talk about bodies. If you have to talk about tissues maybe, but internally at least, we want to call them patients. We don't talk about them as bodies. If someone's in a coma, we don't talk about the body of Uncle Joe. We talk about Uncle Joe still, because they're not gone yet. So that's equally true in cryonics. Okay, let me give a little bit of update on the current state of Alcor, because obviously I'm in the middle of it all the time, so it's easy for me not to be aware of what people may not know. Alcor was started back in 1972. It's actually the second oldest cryonics organization, as far as I know. The first one being the American Cryonics Society, started in 1969. ACS is still officially in existence. It still has kind of a website, and they seem to offer services, but they don't seem particularly active. I think all but 3 of their patients are stored at CI, is that right? I think there's 3 who keep themselves, the rest are at CI.
At least 19 patients at CI.
Yeah, but there's only 3 that they have themselves. I'm saying everybody's stored at CI. I think they have 2 or 3 in
They
California.
don't have a storage facility.
They do. Yeah, they do. Full Siegel's there for one.
You're talking about TransTime.
Well, they work together, so I guess.
No.
But is that TransTime? I
Well,
guess TransTime is
there's bad feelings between ACS and TransTime. They pulled all the patients out. All the patients at TransTime, no ACS patients for
I thought Paul Siegel's there, because I talked to Judy
Paul
Siegel.
Siegel is not an ACS member.
Okay. Well, they work very closely together, so. But basically, yeah, they don't do anything much as far as I can tell. There's some talk that they want to get started. You may have to add to your list again, because they're talking about starting up, but whether that's feasible, I don't know. Anyway, Alcor has grown from tiny little organization. When Garrett and I joined, I think I was number 67, member in the 60s.
It was under 100. Well under 100.
Yeah, it was about 67. So, and now we're, I think, 1,110. And that is, when I say that number, and I have Cryonics Institute claims to be the largest cryonics organization. Not true. Even Tim was fooled because he said, oh, but they have more members than you. Yeah, where'd you get that from? Wikipedia page, probably. We're counting patients and associate members and all other classes of members, and comparing that to Alcor's full members, not counting all the other members. So, in actuality, well, I no longer publishes the Cryo members.
Only half the CI members have plumbing and cryopreservation.
It's about 600, I think. mean, they stopped publishing after 585.
Right.
So it's probably half as many full members, real members. So I just want to point that out because that doesn't bother me. So, you know, just over 1,100 members. We have 149 patients, as I said, up from about 3 when we started. And we're probably averaging about 9 or 10 a year at this point. It really bounces up and down a lot. In the 6 years I've been president there, we've had as few as 3, as many as 13. I think we've had 4 in 5 weeks, which is a pretty intense period. So it's gradually growing. We're actually right now having some architectural planning done to double the size of the patient care bay. So we own the entire building, or at least Cryonics property does, and so there's plenty of room for expansion. We can probably get at least 1,000 patients in there. So we're doubling the patient care bay, adding some new offices. We also have, actually, this would have been a good slide, I suppose, but it'll be in the magazine. We have a new Dewar design, which we're very happy with. Steve Graber, our little technical whiz, designed this Dewar. Most of our Dewars are the Bigfoot Dewars, 4 whole body patients plus 5 neuro patients. The new one, which we're calling the Super D, or the BFD, which I can't see what it stands for because it's rude. But you had Elon Musk's big fucking rocket, BFR, it's kind of similar to that. It'll actually hold probably at least 11 and maybe 13 whole body patients using a different storage system. And we're pretty sure, based on calculations and initial tests, that it cuts our boil off by 60%. They're already pretty good, the Bigfoot, but 60% drop is very good. And it doesn't seem like a big deal per day or per month, but you add that up over decades, it comes to quite a lot of money. So that's really very economical. And what's interesting is they don't take up any more room than our existing Bigfoots, because the Bigfoot has big feet, as they're called, that stick out. These, the feet are underneath, and if you look at the diameter of the outside compared to the feet of the old model, actually it's the same diameter, so it's very, very space efficient. So we haven't put one of those into operation yet, we've been testing it. It's pretty much ready to go, or very close to it. Actually, there's a lot of things that have been going on. We're going to have to try and summarize in an issue at some point. We have a new operating table. We have this ugly old thing, like a sort of dentist chair, torture device. It kind of was Victorian. Steve totally redesigned that, much better. New operating room lights. We've got new perfusion control software. I should mention that Jordan Sparks at Oregon Cryonics has been very, very cooperative and actually offered to give us his perfusion software. He's a programmer, and he's written his own perfusion software in C#, whereas ours is in some more obscure language, and so we're considering whether to switch over to that. That's quite helpful cooperation there. So yeah, a lot of things going on there. Financially, things are pretty good. I managed to cut costs, and we had some increased revenue, and we've been consistently in the black for a while now. The Patient Care Trust Fund has just recently topped $10 million. The draw on it's gone down to about 2% a year, which is what we target. 2% a year should be very sustainable. For those of you who don't know, Alcor has a patient care trust fund that is a separate pool of money that cannot be touched for anything other than preserving those patients. And we think that's really important because those people are helpless. They can't do anything to help themselves. We have to have money and organizations separately looking at just them, not for doing outreach or marketing or research or anything else, but just to keep the patients there. So there's a separate pool. Once we put that money in, out of the 200,000 minimum for whole body, 115,000 goes into that fund. It's managed not by the board of directors, but by a separate board of trustees, 2/3 of whom have to have loved ones cryopreserved. So they have a very direct stake in taking care of that money. So not only has it been growing well, but we've never actually sold any of the investments. We've just used a small cash pool on the side to buy new Dewars and liquid nitrogen. So that's really heading in the right direction. And people say, how can you afford to bring people back in the future? That could be expensive. I point out, well, look, we invest fairly conservatively because we don't want to go down if the market goes down too much, but we're going to grow. We could probably, on average, get maybe 3% a year for the long term. That's not too much of a stretch, while protecting on the downside. 3% a year doesn't sound very exciting, does it? How much money we have in 100 years if you keep going 3% real return?
Probably 5 times.
16 times. Here's a rule of 72. Divide the number into 72, you get the doubling time. 3% means you're doubling every 24 years. That's not very exciting to begin with, but you double to 4 times, you double to 8, you double to 16. So let's say take 100 years, that 100,000, 115,000 is growing to between $1.5 and $2 million in real money, in real terms. That's quite a bit. So we think that's a very robust model that should last indefinitely. And one thing, to come back to sort of anticipate something to come to, advice for new organizations, if you're actually planning on doing storage of patients, which I don't think you should plan on doing too soon, but eventually you will, You need something like that. You need something like a patient care trust fund. It's very secure, very stable, will last indefinitely, and it is very well managed. Something else we're doing right now, we're kind of in the transition, we're actually kind of dividing off the patient care trust fund into a separate organization. It's got a type 2 supporting organization in the US. Its money can still only be used for patient care, but if Alcor ever gets destroyed by lawsuits or government regulation, that will exist as a separate body and can still take care of the patients. So another long-term piece of insurance, essentially. None of this is easy, by the way. It takes a while. But, so that's some of the things we're doing, and all the research, the C. elegans work, quite a few other things that's going on. It's too bad Osher isn't here yet, is he? He's done a lot of work for us. We've been funding his work for quite a long time as a CI. I think he's on stage 10 of his medication research now to improve the medication protocol, and finally wrapping that up, making some changes. And I want to leave some time for questions, so make sure I do that. So, okay, you're starting up a new organization. I think you've got a pretty good idea of some of the pros and cons and dangers here. One thing I would say is don't underprice what you're doing. And I think Tim has some experience here, because you actually do charge membership for Cryonics UK. Because Tim just bought that new van, in case you haven't seen it yet. He's spent his own money on that, will eventually recoup it. Don't be too cheap. Thinking that will put people off, because frankly, if you undercharge, not only will you go bankrupt or leave Cryonics fairly soon because of the strain, but you just won't have the resources to keep it going. We just actually raised the membership application because I actually cut it. The problem was we found people were signing up without having to pay any membership application, which we now credit towards the dues, and then they never paid dues, ever. And poor Bonnie, our finance director, or Diana, a membership person, used to call them dozens of times, and they don't reply, and wasting a lot of effort, and they never. So if they can't afford to pay 6 months' dues in advance as an application fee, you shouldn't even bother with them. It's just not very sustainable. So if you think about that, don't chase everybody down. Suddenly, make sure you have the right people, which is not easy, I know. Don't put someone in charge just because they're volunteering. Make sure you know about them. Run a background check. Doesn't sound very friendly, warm and fuzzy. I recommend running a background check. We've had to do that a couple of times. I had one, a very thorough one on me before I was allowed to be president. I've actually suggested now we do that for everyone on the board of directors, everyone on the patient care trust board, anyone in any position of authority, because you don't know what will turn up. For instance, something that Ben didn't mention about the fellow behind Osiris is that he was convicted of bribing officials, and I think he was fined something like $200,000. We also store Alcor's website, by the way. We store our videos and our web pages. So just keep an eye out for things like that, and keep that in mind when you're assessing people's trustworthiness. Regular training obviously is important, and it's tough. And if you're in somewhere like Finland, where there's a very small number of you and you're long way from other people, that can be difficult. Tim has done an amazing job of keeping up that training consistently. And I know some of you are already doing this, but take advantage of that. Go and join in, because they know what they're doing pretty well. And we will also try to help with that. As Ben mentioned, Aaron Drake is not an employee anymore, but he is a contractor with us whenever he's back in the States. He does training and special courses like that. And we have a new medical response director who's very good, and we're looking to hire a second one. So we actually have 2 of them, which is useful when we have to send someone a long way away. We still have someone at home in Ottawa, 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 CI, or whoever. Especially, well, there's a couple of areas in which that's especially important. One is training, again, because unless you have those skills to begin with, it's hard to get started. Another is protocols and SOPs, standard operating procedures. We've been documenting everything as much as we can, because I realized when I came in, well, first of all, when I took over, nobody gave me anything. I had nothing, no set of procedures or manuals or anything. My predecessors had one meeting with me for like an hour on the budget that was already out of date. And everything else I had to learn where it was. So we've been documenting everything. What if we lose Hugh Hickson, our biochemist who's been there for 30 years? Or Mike Perry, who does patient care? We want someone to be able to step in and take over relatively easily. It's not easy, but easier. So try to document everything and follow procedures. And many of those are available. Many of them can be publicly available, or if you ask nicely, we'll probably give you hours, as far as they're relevant. Make sure you have a sound governing structure. I'm not sure whether we did when we started MISA. I don't know, we just had a board of directors. But it's small, but trying to think ahead as to what is a good governing structure. For instance, all the directors of Alcor have to be members. I presume that's true in CI too. You want that. You want all your senior people to be members, not for it to just be a job. So with the patient care trust, 2/3 of them have to have loved ones who are cryopreserved. So try to think about incentives. You don't want just people who think of it as a job. You want people who really are committed to it. Another area that I would suggest collaborating with established organizations, and I've talked to the Australians about this, is patient storage. Okay, you may have pretty good standby and stabilization procedures, but think about storage. If you take that on, you're taking on someone's life. It's not something you can easily reverse on. You have to make sure the funding's in place, that you're going to just keep doing it, or someone else will. You might at first want to have patients put on dry ice, shipped to Alcor or to CI, and have a negotiation agreement with one of those organizations. After all, we've been around for 45 years, and we've never lost a patient. So if you think about persuading someone to sign up with you, your local organization, they're saying, well, how much experience do you have in keeping people over the long term? Well, 9 months. Okay. If you could say, well, we have an agreement, someone has done it for 45 years reliably, it's maybe better. So once you've got more momentum and more size, more resources, you can maybe think about storing locally. So I'm not sure what the Australians will decide, but we're certainly negotiating that. Really, it's great to have Australia starting their own things. It's a very long way for us to go. You need a lot of warning, really, to do it properly, unless they can do those first stages themselves, which they will be able to do now. Okay, very briefly, before I take any questions, what can Alcor do in Europe right now? Well, it depends how much time we have and where things happen. The case we had most recently was actually in my hometown of Bristol. And we didn't have enough warning. This was a young guy in his 20s. We didn't have enough warning. So Aaron got on the plane right away. But we called up Tim. Poor Tim's on his own. Nobody's there to help, right? Everybody was on holiday or something, was not available.
I've got one person.
You did? Well, Gary came up from London, but from your regular team?
Yeah, I had one.
Oh, you did have one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still pretty heroic, yeah. Who was that?
Derek.
Derek, okay.
Came down from Liverpool.
Oh, that's good. Before it started or during the?
Well, I phoned him as I left and he got in the car.
Okay. Yeah, so it was great that Tim was able to do that. We hope to work with Tim a lot more because he's proven to be extremely reliable. But we want to do that with other groups too. So even if it's not an Alcor group, there'll be some differences. If it's an Alcor group, be one thing. Even if it's a mixed group like Cryonics UK is, we can still do things. We may supply things that you can use for anybody. Other parts of it, like our Fusate, will be only for Alcor members. But for training, for response, we can work out some kind of collaboration. It's not competition, it's co-opetition. Right? There's some competition, you can't really deny that, but there's also cooperation, that's very important. So we're not running black and white lines here, we want to maximize the cooperation. Especially in Europe, where you're not going to be necessarily one organization or the other. You might think about, maybe it's something we can discuss for the rest of the weekend, and I think maybe it's just into that in one or two of the talks, some kind of pan-European umbrella organization that could share resources, could organize training in all the different countries. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but that might be a possibility where you can sort of divide things up but also share resources. Right now, basically, England is the place to go to get training regularly, but maybe that could be spread out more without having to drive his van everywhere. Unless you don't mind doing that, maybe you'd like to see all the different countries.
Maybe.
Your wife might not like it so much, but yeah, so let's try and organize regular trainings elsewhere, maybe under an umbrella organization. So right now we have 2 kits in England. Cryonics UK has a lot of their own stuff, but we have a kit also with them in Sheffield. We have another full kit in London with an international mortuary company. They can get that pretty much anywhere in Europe, in fact, pretty much anywhere in the world fairly quickly, and arrange shipping back. So we have all the Fusate there. We have a gravity-fed perfusion system in both places. The morticians can actually do that procedure. You don't need a real surgeon to do it. It works pretty well. We've actually used that a number of times now. We found, the gold standard is the operating room, the proper pumps, but it does pretty well. And we know that because we've done CT scans of several patients using that method, including a guy from Bristol, who actually looked pretty good. I don't know if that's published yet, but it looks really good. So it does work quite well if you're there right away. There's a big delay, or not much ischemic damage. So we have that in 2 places there. We have in a couple of places in Canada. We're spreading that. I really want to get into Germany. I've sort of had my eye on Germany for a while. So I'm to Torsten, who I think is a really solid fellow. Somebody you should really get to know Torsten if you don't yet. He's a very solid, reliable fellow, and I want to get some training, some kit, and talk about local response in continental Europe. Because if we can get England set down, continental Europe, that's a pretty good start, and then we can work on expanding that further. So we need to talk some more about that. So we're limited in what we can do in continental Europe, but given a bit of time, we can get people there. And the nice thing is we can send our medical response director, he can go to London, pick up the kit, or have them send it to wherever, Barcelona, Madrid, Austria, wherever it is, fairly quickly. So with a little bit of warning, we can still get there in time, even before they're declared.